Hello, and welcome to Handled Ish Productivity for the Imperfect, a weekly podcast for those who want to elevate their productivity but are not looking for perfection. I'm your host, Betsy Hayes, and I'm really happy you're here with me in podcast land or on YouTube. This is episode 62. If you're in a rut, try this. So, first, I have to put a little footnote on the episode a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about my half birthday. My math was wrong. And my half birthday actually isn't until April 12th, but the sentiment still flies. But I did want to acknowledge that I really do know how to do math. I just evidently didn't know how to do math that week. So that was kind of funny. So today I want to talk about, ruts, right? Sometimes we're feeling very stagnant. We find ourselves, if someone asks us what we're up to, we say things like same old thing or, nothing new or anything like that. And often when that happens, we're not happy being in a rut. And so I've been thinking about this because of a conversation I had with my students a couple of weeks ago. And it reminded me of an article that I wrote many moons ago. And it was called Change Your Seat, Change Your Perspective. And it's about a very, very simple concept that has absolutely almost magical ramifications and can really help you get out of a rut or stagnation or whatever it is that's, stuck for you. And the idea is for you to just literally change your seat. So, at the dinner table, if you normally sit in a particular chair, sit in a different chair. At church, if it'll work, I know that. Well, we'll talk about how other people might react to this in a moment, but at church, if you sit in a regular place, try to sit in a different place. If you're in a classroom, sit in a different place. If you normally sit up front, sit in the back. If you normally sit on the left side, sit on the right side. The more you can more drastically change your seat, the more impact this is going to have. If you go to a favorite restaurant and you always sit at the same table, sit at a different table, right? So the idea is wherever you normally sit somewhere else. In the living room, it could also be, right? You normally sit in this particular part of the couch. Don't sit on the couch, sit somewhere else, right? The idea is to look at things slightly differently through a different seat. Even if you live by yourself, we all have favorite places at the dinner table, favorite places on the couch. Sit in a different one, right? And I promise you, while this may seem a little bit silly and unmagical, it really is very helpful to look at whatever it is you're doing from a slightly different perspective. And if you're able to change seats in a myriad of places throughout your day, I just thought of another one. You're at a staff meeting and normally you sit, wherever, sit in a different place. It just helps you look at things with a slightly different perspective and can be just what you need to get out of a rut, to get out of feeling stagnant. I promise you, I have done this. It is really helpful. I make my students do it often in the middle of the semester when everyone is very set in their seat. I make them move, grumble, 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 as you might expect. But at the end of the class, everyone, articulates that, wow, you know what? I totally see what you were saying about how when I change my seat, it does change my perspective, even if it's only slightly. Now, I do need to acknowledge that when you sit in a seat that you don't normally do, especially if you've been sitting in that seat for a very long time, right, at the dinner table, at church, wherever, in class, it might be a little off-putting to the other people. And hopefully they can have good humor. You might even tell them, hey, I'm trying an experiment. I'm sitting somewhere else to change my perspective. Maybe they will be inspired to do that also. Most people can deal, right, if they're just slightly to the left or to the right or the front of the back of their regular seat. We don't own chairs, in the classroom, at church, and the dining room table. Our names are not chiseled on there, so it is okay to sit in a different seat. Sometimes you might have to be a little bit brave to do this, but I challenge you to do this week. See how many different chairs you can sit in and see what happens. A offshoot of this that you may also want to try is to drive to work or school or wherever you go on a regular basis in a different way. Most of us drive to work, school, whatever, the same way. We drive the same way home every day, weeks, months, years, right? And there is most always a slightly different route or a radically different route that we can go to get home. Maybe it takes us a little bit longer to, get home, to get to work with this new route. But again, it helps you look at things in a slightly different way. If you don't want to do that, another slight offshoot is to actually pay attention to the route that you take. Because again, if you take it every single day, and sometimes we don't even see, what we're driving by or what's happening around us because it's just autopilot. And that really is the magic of this particular strategy is it gets us out of autopilot, which is what we need to do in order to get out of a rut, in order to not feel stagnant, in order to just get unstuck. So please try it. Let me know how it goes. I'm very curious. I love this strategy personally. I do use it. And yeah, let me know what you think. At Betsy Hayes on all the social. BetsyAHayes.com is my website. Hayes, Hays. And have a fabulous week until I see or hear you again, or until you see or hear me again. Words sometimes are hard, even on a podcast. And be kind to yourself. Please take care and give yourself some grace because I promise you are doing way better than you think you are. Trust me.